What's going on, guys? This is Damien from The Lookout, and today I am here with BT27 Archetype tier list. We're taking a bit of a break from the how to play guides, mostly because I'm a bit lazy and I have way too much to do, and this is much faster. Plus we just saw the entire set. So in this video we will be ranking archetypes from the set, and then in a later video we will actually be looking at the entire metagame. So the standings here are not final, but they are like a good indication of where I believe powers are of these various decks. But before we begin, huge shout out to the Coffee Club, our level of patrons. These are our $2 and our patrons, the best coffee. They keep this crazy content grind going, and guys, thanks out for your support. If you wish to join the Coffee Club, link to our Patreon is in the description below. And I think that's about everything. Roll the video. Okay, so let's just dive straight into it. We don't have a lot of leaders, there's only 10 of them, because we're just looking at BT26 in isolation. We won't do the metagame one until the ban list. So now I think we will make one before the ban list, then one after that, right? Like more content, yay! So YouTube shield, like and subscribe, Gundam. So okay, let's go through the tiers. So tier 0 OP should be banned, self-explanatory. Tier 1 meta defining, tier 2 competitive. So tier 1 meta defining, I need to repeat this because every tier list is someone's first tier list. These are the top dogs. These are the next meta decks. They will be everywhere. So the best. Tier 2 competitive decks. These can top, these will top very often, but they won't be meta decks, right? They're the second best choice. Now the disparity between 2 and 1 and 2 is like pretty big. If you look at current decks in the game, there's a pretty huge difference between tier 1 and tier 2. So I'm trying for it to be like as close as possible, though. Tier 3 rogue decks, they might top occasionally, but nothing to write home about, like it will happen here and there, but it won't be often enough. Tier 4 locals, as always, nothing wrong with decks being in locals. Some of the best, most fun decks in the game are locals decks. Like Dragon Ball does an amazing job when it comes to locals decks. Tier 5 trash, pretty self-explanatory, and then tier 6 the Towa token tier. So let us begin. We will start with Vegeta. They're just ordered like this, so but hey, both colors, both leaders in both colors, that's fine. It makes it easier to track. So Vegeta, I have been playing Vegeta. I have a how to play guide that I just need to film, but I've been infinitely lazy the last 2 weeks. And I'm working on something for hopefully March. So, is this deck good? Well, it's very consistent. So first off, it is very consistent. Though RNG can screw you over, but hopefully it won't. Hopefully it won't screw you over in the first 2 turns. It can play mono red. It can play red black, which is the better option. Because hey, otherwise you will be crying when your SS4 Vegeta gets milled, and it will happen. So, and then you will be like, maybe I should have listened to Damien and ran black red and used Evil's Hand instead. Anyway, the deck is very consistent. There are some cards on turn 2. I'm using one of them, which I'll show in the guide. Can make the deck very, very consistent even when you go first. You swarm a bunch of Saiyans. Getting those Gokus out is insane. The Goku boss monsters are just wow. Plus your leader just combos for free, so they just get to restand all of them. Yeah, okay. So the deck has beatdown. It's gonna struggle into mill a bit, but you don't mill as much. It seems like you're milling a lot, but you're not really doing that. You mill 4 cards in total, and that's it. Twice activate main on the front side. So In fact, mill, oh my god, I said this wrong. It's gonna do very well into mill. Because your black cards require that you have things in the drop, and they're not overwhelm, so you can use them use multiples of different ones of them. If you're playing into Zamasu, you can also play the Broly because you will have enough cards. So overall, that is good. The draw power I think is okay. I think the draw power is fine for this deck. There's a ton of removal. So if you haven't played this deck, it minuses like crazy. Like, it really, really minuses like crazy. So overall, what do I have to say about Vegeta? Where does the deck land? So, very good aggro. If you build it like that, it can be very, very good aggro. It's definitely very good mid-range. It reminds me of the U7 Goku deck. And taking everything into consideration, in isolation, of course, without the rest of the metagame and everything, I think this is a tier 2 deck. I think Vegeta can definitely be a competitive deck. So I think this is where he belongs at the moment. I don't think that anyone has cracked the perfect ratios of everything for it, but the deck is very good. And it feels very good to play once you start minusing things. Then we go to Jiren. The problem is that I am making this tier list before I make the how to play guide, because it's easier and I'm fucking lazy. So when it comes to Jiren, this is gonna sound very controversial. I think Jiren is really good. I think Jiren is really, really good. And I think that no one got it yet. So, a couple of, let me do it like this, right? 1 second. Let me say image. Is it? No, card. Okay. So that I can just bring up the cards that I'm talking about. And this is too big. Yeah, Jiren is a big boy. There we go. There, see, semi-editing live. Just fucking around with the card size. Okay, let's talk about the Jiren. One thing that somehow everyone missed, or at least most people that I've talked to, Jiren's activate battle isn't once per turn. Please, for the love of God, I know we're Dragon Ball players, but please at least read the card. Yeah, I've seen this a lot, like red text once per turn. No, it's Spirit Boost 1. It's not once per turn. Jiren is really, really good. So, what are you looking at when you're looking at the Jiren? You're looking at your Z Unisons. Jiren Z Unison is fucking insane. Piccolo is arguably the better one if you want to go very aggro. Your 1-drops are just your cantrips. You look at 1-drops like you're looking at cantrips. Your Spirit Boost, if they have 3 markers on them, you can Spirit Boost up to 15k. So that's not bad. You're not wasting cards from your hand to combo. That's a big one. So Unisons are great. Sin is a weird one, but he's actually pretty cool once you figure out how to play him, because he's played to replace a card and then start another chain. So let's just say, for example, you can play the 1-drop, plus 2 the 1-drop, go pay 1, go into Piccolo, empower Piccolo, he's on 4 markers, swing twice with him, swing once with Jiren, Spirit Boost all of the markers except 1 away, then play Sin, Spirit Boost 1 to establish another 1-drop, and then use Activate Main to play Piccolo for free, and then swing twice again. Like, it's just an example, but you got what? 30, 25, 20, 25, plus Big Leader, plus Sin. It's not bad. So those things are good. If you want to play more of a control option, you can do so with the Jiren Unison, which gets Videl automatically online. So yeah, the deck goes around almost every floodgate in the game, because not a lot of things except for like what dormant actually stops unisons. There's not a lot of things that can stop unisons from swinging. So, and your key unisons have barrier, which is amazing. I think Jiren is really, really good. At the moment, because I know you need some more convincing, so I'll have to do the guide later on. Jiren goes into Rogue, but I can see Jiren going higher, but at least Rogue. I would say at least Rogue for Jiren. Jiren is awesome. Then you have the deck that plays the worst keyword of all time, Invoker. So, Invoker Zeno. Shout out to Peter Dance. Hey Peter, I know you're watching this. You've probably just skipped to Zeno just to see what I'm gonna say about him. Peter Dance is the best Invoker player in the world. The best Invoker player who's not a notorious cheater. So, and I'm not putting Sublet into this category, by the way. Peter Dance, the best Invoker player in the world, the biggest keyword supporter, was begging for Invoker to come back. 2 days later, he was like, mate, this is ass. And after trying it a bit myself, it is ass. This is the worst deck in the entire product. This deck is awful. Here is how and why. So what do you get? You get Invoker on your turn. That's the problem. You get Invoker on your turn, but if you look at historical best Invoker cards, they're all defensive pieces. And now you have to pay for them. Or you need to overpay for a card that's gonna have Invoker on your opponent's turn. Or you play, I think Champa and Beerus both have Invoker, but they die instantly to literally anything. So you can't even have Invoker on something that's static and can be removed on your opponent's turn. So automatically lose a lot of defenses. Because Zeno is not Universe 7, you lose some of your best Invoker cards. Because they are all locked to Universe 7 later. And you're basically forced to play an offensive version of Invoker. Now you have your Archetype cards, you have Emperor's Deathbeam, you have ways to spend the energy to use the Invoker keyword to push for more damage. However, what you end up doing then is you're playing an aggro deck that wants to jump through a lot of hoops and is in general worse than the majority of other aggro decks in the game. So Zeno wants to be something, but he's kinda nothing. He's playing a defensive keyword completely wrong. He's giving you tools to play offensively, but there's no reason to do that. Because you can just do that with any other deck and you will do well. So, where do we put Zeno? I was stopping a bit, I thought maybe it's break. So, I'm getting my coffee. So, where do we put Zeno? Zeno goes into trash. Zeno goes into trash. Editing magic got my coffee. Thank you, Coffee Club. So, Gamas, another probably controversial one. Gamma Reboot is awesome. That's not controversial. Gamma Reboot is awesome. So, we have a guide out. This deck is very, very technical in nature. It's very technical in nature. It's very pilot skill dependent. Like, you need to be a good pilot to play Gamas properly. You can't just pick up the deck and fly by the seat of your pants. So there's a lot of knowing how things interact with each other, knowing what to charge so that you can remove something, that thing or something else in the same turn to profit from a different effect. There are a lot of technicalities when it comes to Gamma. If you can pull all of those, if you can do everything correctly, Gamma is an amazing deck. It's very difficult to stop you. Gamma is a very, very good deck. You can use the old package, which is cool. You don't need as many old cards as I thought before I ordered them, because I fuck you, Damien. So, yeah, you needed the topo androids, basically. That's what you need, more than anything else. Other than that, you are basically always on 6 energies. In theory, you can go higher, but I expect the Bardock thing to be addressed at some point. So you're on 6 on your turn, you're on 3 on your opponent's turn, but basically you're always somewhere more or less like give or take 1 or 2 energies, because you're constantly recharging things and bouncing to hand and all of that jazz. You don't have very big finishers. You need to rely on your Cell SR from BT17. Cell Max is very, very good. Cell Max is surprisingly good, but he's super expensive. You have a very good Unison in the deck. The green color doesn't really give you anything. That's the one thing that I've noticed. Like, outside of playing 2 cards, green doesn't give you anything. And yeah, the rest is, I think the deck is cool. You're just charging a bunch of stuff, you're regaining energy. It's Gamma. It's Gamma that we know. It's gonna be extremely annoying to play against this, because it's once again gonna be Floodgate City, where you use your topo androids, you use Heroic Prospect, you use Defending Friends, you use every tool on planet Earth to just keep your opponent from attacking you, and then you beat them. You grind them into overtime, and then like every skilled player in the world, you use Android 21 SCR to win. So, with all of that being said, I'm gonna make the following statement. I think Gamma is probably the best deck in the set. It's up there. It's probably the best one. But it's not meta defining. So, I think Gamma and one more here are above everything else in the set. Like, significantly above everything else. But it's not tier 1. And there is a reason why it is not. I don't believe that we will have enough players who will dedicate to this deck and play it properly on very high levels for this deck to become a meta-defining deck. It's much easier to play Nuova, Zamasu, Kitku, Black decks, whatever, than it is to play Gamma. And that's why I don't think it will be meta-defining, because I don't think it will pull in the results to be meta-defining. I think people will shy away once they figure out how much effort and how much knowledge comes into piloting this deck properly. Not that I don't think that the deck is meta-defining. I think it's definitely a tier 1 deck. However, it's very high pilot skill, so I think that's why it's gonna go into competitive. And that's why I think it's gonna just end up being a competitive deck, though it kinda has everything that it needs to have to be tier 1. I think it has everything it needs to have. It can actually go into tier 1. Yeah, sure, let's put it like that. You know, me putting a Gamma in tier 1 is more of a compliment to everyone. That's me believing that that enough of you can make Gamma work and win events and just shoot him into tier 1. But yeah, it's probably gonna be a lot different when we get to actual metagame tier list, because then we're taking a lot of other things into consideration. So, okay. We have the green Goku, the trash Ku, the green Kid Ku. So this deck is... He's somewhere to like my least favorite one. He's around my least favorite one, but he does have a couple of cool interactions. Let me just change the Gamma here. Okay. So, how good is this deck? Well, it's weird. Its sequencing is very weird. It takes getting used to. It's gonna play some vanillas, it's gonna play their other pairs to get a different sort of an effect. It's very announcer-ish in what it's trying to do. On a positive note, well, the permanent, which barely ever matters, is cool. The Bulma is really, really good. Bulma is a game changer. The auto is great because you're going to be drawing a lot. So it's a green Saiyan. That's important. It's very archetype locked in a way because these adventure cards, there's not a lot of them. The deck is mostly archetype, but you can do some cute things with it when it comes to... So we're not going to be looking at other decks. Because if we're looking at other decks, that's going to be for the metagame tier list. Then this deck gets significantly worse. It gets significantly worse. And my argument would be, why would you play this deck over Namek Goku? Or even Green Gohan? Or even Vegeta? Probably wouldn't. But we're looking at it in isolation, just checking out the various power levels of these decks. I am torn between Rogue and Locals for this one. What do you get? You get Dormant, you get Uneasing. This is the thing, right? You get everything that you get with other green decks. But looking at it in isolation, what does the deck do by itself? It can get Celzino out. That's an argument. It has an easy time getting Celzino out. The pairs are not the best. Yamcha is like the best card in the entire archetype. It does draw a lot. It has a couple of cute things, and it's a green Saiyan. It's very difficult to say that even if everything in the deck is shit, and it's not, it's difficult for green Saiyans to not be good. Green Saiyans are very good, thanks to Uneasing existing. So, based on that alone, I would kind of put him into Rogue. I think that I would put him into Rogue, based mostly on the fact that it is a green Saiyan, more than anything else. And he draws a lot, but realistically I don't think that anyone is gonna play it in a competitive setting. And it's you the person in the comments just typing out, Damien, I'm going to top with this deck. I know you're gonna do that, but sure, other than people looking to spite me. So let's talk about the other green deck, Piccolo. I think Piccolo is great. I think Piccolo is really, really great. Now, I have a bad time with Piccolo because I get screwed over by RNG a lot. But I have been playing against Peter Dance, and Piccolo really shined there. It's very straightforward, it's very explosive, it's very consistent. It has probably the most stickiest board in the entire game at this point. The leader is huge. So there is a lot. The hand size is even okay. Once you get the Porunga off, the hand size is really okay. It's difficult to have your opponent commit to clearing your board. Though they are getting rid of cards from hand, they essentially need to clear everything twice. And then they're not attacking your leader, so they're not really progressing the game state, and you just swarm the board again. Piccolo is very, very good. I think Piccolo is very, very good. Now, the problem with Piccolo, he is Namekian. He is not Saiyan, so he doesn't get Uneasing. He's all the Namekian cards aren't really worth it in the deck. There is the 5-cost one, or whatever, it's a 3-cost. The Gohan and Piccolo one, I don't think that one is good. I think it's a cute deck, but you can probably go without it. But the deck is constantly doing something, and it has a massive leader. Because all of your combos are 10k, and they're free. You can get out of most attacks. So I think Piccolo is very good. Overall, it's easy to play. It's very easy to play. It's very straightforward. You can get into Masters just through Piccolo. There are 2 decks in this game in this set where you don't need literally anything else. and one of these is Piccolo. So yeah, I think Piccolo probably tier 2. I would say Piccolo is good. Piccolo can compete. Piccolo can definitely compete. Now we're talking about the one that, if you are in my Discord, you know my feelings about this one. If you're not, link is in the description below. We have locals free twice a week. So, Golden Frieza. I know that there is a decent amount of people who probably jumped to the tier list and automatically skipped here to see where am I gonna put the Golden Frieza, because I have been notorious of talking against this deck. I don't think that this deck is good. I think that the draw power is okay. The 11 drops are bad. There's not much there. The offering one is okay. The SER is great because you can just cheat it out. But other than that, I think the majority of decks is just kind of meh. It doesn't do anything. It suffers from a problem that we are seeing more and more the longer the game goes, and that's a natural thing to happen. It doesn't do anything that really makes me want to play it over any other yellow deck. Like, it doesn't do anything on its own that's so like, wow. It can get the SER out for free. That's great. It has a free offering, that's cool. It has a free way to kill unisons, that's also cool. A lot of things replace themselves and KO stuff, but yellow does it by default. So where do we put Frieza, right? I'm not gonna talk a lot about this deck. Where do we put it? Was I convinced, for all the people who tried to make me say, hey, Frieza is not that bad, was I convinced? Coffee pause. There you go. I think Frieza is rogue. And now we have like a big applause montage or something like that. It's mostly, I don't think that any deck in this set is below rogue except Zeno. I think all of them are at least rogue except Zeno, because Zeno is dog shit. And knowing how this goes, Zeno is probably gonna be the tier 0-1. Now, moving on to this deck, SS Broly, big action, big iron Broly. So, if you are a new player and you're just jumping into Masters, this is the deck that you pick. You take either this deck or you take Piccolo, preferably you take Broly. Because Broly can be played without a single card from older sets. You can build Broly exclusively from this set alone, and you can take him to events and you can do very, very well. Broly doesn't rely on as many old cards because Broly plays with all of his energy tapped out always, so you don't need floodgates and stuff like that. Of course, you can use negates and everything and they will make your deck better, but you can just pick Broly and just go to an event. If you're a Fusion World player and you're here for some reason and you're like, hey, at my weekend event there's gonna be Masters on day 1 or on day 2, grab a Broly for probably cheap, buy a box, you can assemble Broly from the box and you can go and you can have a good time and you can get good results. That's the most important. You can get very good results. Now let's talk about Broly actually. The deck is cool. The deck is going to change the game in a weird way. It's a deck that plays with all of its energy tapped and it's good. That's not something that you would normally see. So the point is to always have your energy tapped out immediately. The first thing that you play needs to tap you out. So you're always playing on 4, you play a card, then you cheat another one in, then Broly draws and becomes 25k until the start of your next turn. 25k leaders are surprisingly hard to beat. Piccolo, For example, from mine and Peter's testing, Piccolo does okay into Broly because he can easily combo above his base power, but he does better versus other decks where leaders are 15. But just going above 25k, while feasible for some decks, it is difficult for the other ones. And then if they waste, I don't know, it's almost a super combo. It's a 10k buff when you're swinging at Broly. If you're swinging with 15, 25k is a permanent super combo on a 15k baseline leader. That's colossal. And you'll just easily out combo. Now, what if you don't out combo? You have Garlic. Garlic is insane. If you play Garlic versus Black, they lose. They will lose. They can't deal with Garlic. There is nothing in Black that can deal with Garlic. You have Bojack, and I suggest that you run 4 copies of Bojack. He just stops the attack. If you want to be the guy who plays Bio Broly, you can play Bio Broly as well. Then we get to the Z Extra, which is insane. One thing that I didn't know in the Piccolo matchup, because hey, webcam can sometimes be a bit difficult. If you're playing versus, let's say, Piccolo, for example, you put a card with deflect under the Z Extra, and he just doesn't do anything anymore. So the Z Extra can shut down so many decks. If you put Deflect Barrier, you just shut down a lot of things in the game. So Broly is really, really good. It's a really, really good deck, and the boss monster is fucking insane. Where do we put Broly? After all of that, I think Broly is competitive. Broly is not gonna be meta-defining. Broly is not gonna be the best deck in the meta. Gamma has a better shot than Broly does, but Broly is very, very good. I think he's competitive. Now, we are moving to Mei Kabura. Okay, so Mei Kabura is back for what? Back for the first time. Yeah, this is one of those characters that don't have a lot of leaders. Still, this Dark Overrealm version is fucking insane. Like, this deck is amazing. I've been having a blast playing this deck, and I'm someone who really sucks when it comes to black. But I have just been having a blast with this one. He's extremely consistent. He's really consistent. He draws a lot. Plays 2 things per turn. He has cool effects with, like, you warp, you combo from the drop, you do all of this crazy shit. It's Dark Overrealm, so everything remains on the field. The deck has a cool boss monster. The boss monster is okay. The deck has access to counter for free energy. Yes, you do counter for free energy. Yellow did it as well, and it was awesome. So swing just double, counter, dump hand, win the game. That's a big scary one. Other than that, I didn't find many flaws when it comes to Mei. I didn't find many flaws when it comes to this deck. I think this deck is amazing. I think it's the second best one in the entire set. I think Mei is the second best deck in the entire set. I would slap him into meta defining. Now, the reason why Mei is not gonna be meta defining on the actual metagame tier list is because it's very difficult to convince someone to play Mei Kabura over SS4 Vegeta or SS4 Goku. But the deck, when we get to think of it like this, when we get to the competitive metagame in like 2 weeks or so, whenever the ban list, before the ban list, once everything is revealed, maybe next week already, a lot of these meta-defining decks are going to be bumped down into competitive. Some of them will stay. Some decks from lower tiers will stay and move around, but in isolation, Mei is the second best. And then we reach the final one, and it's a promo actually. It is Panzino. So, Panzino gets a leader, and this leader is nuts. Like, this is another leader that's just like, wow. This leader is just wow. She plays basically like... She plays like SS4 Goku Zeno, except that she's not a deck that auto loses if the game goes long enough. Without, you don't auto lose with Goku if you're a phenomenal pilot and you know how to adapt. Pan doesn't need to do that. What else Pan has is, well, she doesn't have the double strike that Goku has, and she doesn't have the explosive overwhelm power that Goku has. However, what she does have is the stupid Gohan Z Battle card, which is basically Father-Son Solidarity from the Z deck that can restand and then swing twice. Or you can just play the Vegeta Z Battle that came out and swing twice with that one. Or you can play the Goku one and swing twice with that one. So there's a lot of Z Battle aggro here. A lot of Z Battle aggro, a lot of draw power for the deck. You fill your drop, you're able to overwhelm as much as you want. Well, not as much as when it comes to Goku, but you get the idea. You're always going to be drawing because you draw also on your opponent's turn. There is a lot to Pan. And I think that Pan is phenomenal. I think Pan is meta-defining. She is at least as strong as Oceanus when it comes to pre-release leaders. And we have a pretty nice picture here actually. Like if you look at this, I'm just done talking about all of this. If you look at it, like it's actually pretty nice. We have 3 decks which can fall into meta-defining in vacuum. I don't think that a single one of them will. Maybe Pan will be meta-defining. Maybe Pan will be. Gamas, I hope so. I hope I can be proven wrong. I hope that Gamas is real. That Gamma is a really, really dominant deck, but it requires a lot of work. A lot of work from you as a player when you can just kind of pick Nuova or Zamasu and just get the same results but easier. Meki is great. When it comes to competitive, I think all of these are good. Rogue, I think all of these rogue picks are good. You can make an argument to bump like Green Goku somewhere up or so. I would say that you bump Jiren up, but we'll talk about this next week, I hope. And then Zeno is just trash. So yeah, that's it. That was the tier list. That's it for the video. Let me know in the comments below, what is your BT27 archetype tier list? So where do you think these various archetypes range? We will have a metagame tier list maybe next week. So until then, let me know in the comments below. I read all of your comments. I try to respond to everything. I love our little community. And while you're here, hit those like and subscribe buttons. Help us get to 6k subs when I'm gonna give away a booster box. This has been Damian from the Lookout, and I'll see all of you in the next video.